Oh. Welcome to the first episode of Schiffbauer Over Rocks, a podcast where interesting people, business topics, and cultural tidbits come together. My first guest is Lauren Mudrock, branding photographer extraordinaire. Lauren, tell everybody a little bit more about you.
Well, my name is Lauren, like he said. I started out as a photographer a few years ago in 2015. I actually got started in wedding photography and hated my life.
Oh, you hated your life?
I hated my life. My business pretty much imploded on itself. I was just not having a good time at all. So I ended up taking a corporate job for a while and realized that wasn't for me either. And eventually just retired from that.
Just hang it up?
My friends literally threw me a retirement party. So I just up and quit that, and I've been going on my own ventures ever since. I got a little bit into Reiki, energy healing, and now I have found my way back to photography for the final time. And the reason I'm in branding now is that's what I've always wanted to done. That's what I've always wanted to do, but I have never given myself permission to do it. So here I am, stepping into my real shoes.
And you're here today, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
See, I've known you for many years now.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mrs. Rupert's accounting class. With that being said, I'm just kind of interested just from hating that aspect of photography and rediscovering a passion and a fire for it now. Talk a little bit more about that. I'm curious.
Yeah. So it's not that I hate wedding photography, and I certainly had amazing clients to work with. They were the best people that I could ask for, given the circumstances. It was just I put too much pressure on myself. Mm-hmm. You know, I was trying to be every other photographer out there that I wasn't allowing myself to shine through my business. So I got into this state where I just didn't believe in any of the things that I was doing, any of the work that I was putting into my clients. I was just constantly second-guessing myself, and I was like, is this good enough? And in turn, I was telling myself, no, it's not. So, you know, they always say a person who's appreciated will always go the extra mile. Well, I didn't have anybody reassuring me. I just had myself. Am I allowed to cuss?
Oh, absolutely.
I just had myself shitting on myself all the time and just being like, you're not doing anything. So I got so discouraged and just didn't want to do anything and fed into that downward spiral where eventually I just had to step away. I just didn't feel worthy of participating in any of that. So,
and that's just awesome to hear that you found this new outlet. I mean, not necessarily a new outlet, it was there.
Right.
But having that passion and have something you truly believe in with branding photography.
Right.
With that being said, what is a brand to you?
So a brand is not just limited to a business these days. A brand is everything that you are. I mean, we've entered this era of so many like coaching business, online businesses, one-man show kind of businesses.
Yeah.
So your brand is everything you are on your website, on social media, out on the streets, how you're interacting with not only your clients, but how you carry yourself outside of work and everything. Everything you do is a part of your brand as a person.
No, I definitely agree with that too. And I think just because of how digital and how transparent society is going with just between Instagram stories and the constant updates, more and more where you can, I feel like, separate your personal life from your professional life. It's almost, they're the same thing.
Right.
And I'd be interested to get your thoughts on that. I'm a firm believer where who I am in my professional life is almost an exact portrait of who I am in my personal life.
Right.
Quite frankly, with that crossover, and I think that's very important from an authenticity standpoint. And I do hate that word because it gets thrown out around, and I think it's a little
watered down.
It's very watered down. I think most people who talk about authenticity are full of shit, quite frankly.
I agree. 100%. I'm glad I'm not the only one who feels that way.
No. So it's very ironic where this is a podcast where we're talking.
Well, at least we're being real. I mean, that's
absolutely.
It's less about being authentic and more about just being real. I think that's a better word for it.
Yes. Keeping it real.
Yeah.
More than anything. I think that's really important with connecting to people, whatever be, if you're goofy, you're serious.
Right.
Any way you connect to, your potential customers, your followers, your base, it's got to be that realness to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and one thing I really love to do with like my headshot clients, well, really any client, anytime I show up for a photo session, I really value being able to meet somebody where they're at. I don't come in and I'm not like, you have to have this high energy. Now give me that really big smile. And like, I don't know, the camera loves you. Like things that people think of when they think of studio photography or any kind of photography. I'm very much like, hey, what's going on today? Like, where you at? You don't have to be into this at all right now. Like, just let me know where you are, and we will build that momentum from there. And I think having the background that I have in Reiki energy healing and my very, like, spiritual background is, like, that has helped me just let everything be as it is and work with that and see the value in that rather than feeling like I have to be on all the time. Because if I expect my clients to be on all the time...
Oh, they're not going to be.
Well, they're not going to be, and
I can attest to that.
Yeah,
in a different scenario, but...
Right. But if I put that pressure on them, then I'm automatically putting that pressure on myself. And that's just not... You cannot be on all the time. Like,
absolutely. I don't care who you are.
Right.
You're going to have down days or you're going to have down moments, rather.
Yeah.
So it's just important to kind of go with the flow in those scenarios.
Definitely roll with it. Yeah.
More than anything. It's kind of interesting. So this is the aspect of, working with a diverse clientele. How is that from like day to day or, client to client? You going with this one person where they might have a restaurant and it's this particular mood. Mm-hmm. And then you might be going with somebody who's a magician and they're doing XYZ completely off the spectrum. How do you go from one brand to another?
Well, that part doesn't influence me at all, really. It's really, is there heart in it?
Okay.
Are you in business for the right reasons? Are you in business for a paycheck, or are you in business because it lights you up? Like, it's like, what's the next thing I get to do? Like you with this podcast. What's the next thing I get to do to, like,
shameless plug,
create something more, not just for myself, but for the community. And even if it is a selfish thing, that's okay. It's, again, just being real about it. Like, if it drives you, like, if it excites you, then that's the kind of person that I want to work with. So sometimes going from like a really high energy person who's like, yeah, I'm seeking out these photos because I want my brand to match where I'm going, not just where I am. And I want my brand I want to be able to look at these photos and say that's me, rather than like just showing up to a random studio for $50 and getting a traditional senior portrait kind of LinkedIn photo. And
jeez.
Yeah. So when you go from like a really engaged person to a really not so engaged person, it definitely makes you second guess yourself. It's like, oh, is this me, or is this like just the situation? Yeah. Once you can separate yourself from that, then it's kind of like, oh, okay, I see this for what it is, and I'm just gonna pick up and go from here. So in general, going from set to set is really cool, because they're just, you can plan all you want, but as soon as you get there throughout the day, it's just like a totally new thing is going to come to fruition there. You just have to roll with it.
And I can attest to that. Not necessarily set to set, but like client to client or project to project. I think it's just fun part of the process where it's almost like a roller coaster where every day is a different turn and pivot. And being able to be business for myself and likewise for you, business for yourself, it's really awesome to experience that more than anything.
Right.
Speaking of sets, what's probably the most interesting scenario you've been in from this, like...
From a photographer's standpoint?
Yeah, I'm curious.
So, okay, a lot of people feel super comfortable during their sessions that they always ask, can I take my shirt off and take some, like,
really
kind of nude photos? Yeah, that happens. And I'm like, well, if you feeling it and you want that, that's fine. We'll go with it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but it's really cool. I mean, it's not as creepy as it sounds. It's like, hey, wow, I feel like I'm really, like, honoring who I am in this moment. I've worked really hard to get this body that I have right now. Can can I celebrate that? And it's like, yeah, absolutely. That's really
and you're
cool.
just like, yeah.
Why not? Like, throw in some personal photos in there. It's not anything like weird.
No, that's funny though. Cool. Now I'm all about that.
I'm all about taking my clothes off.
I love it. I'm gonna take a drink to that.
Yeah. Cheers.
Going back to being selfish in business, I think being selfish is good to an extent, especially when you're very passionate about something.
Yes.
If you're not selfish in that regard, it's like, where's this going to go?
Yes. And there are different levels of selfishness, I would say. So when I talk about owning and running a selfishly based business, there are like 2 points to that. One, it has to start with you. You have to lay out the foundation of what is my heart in.
Yeah.
And then from there you can branch out and, test the waters with what works with your clients and make adjustments. As you find more confidence in that, you kind of lose that ego-based selfishness there.
I feel like that's fine too. I always kind of use the analogy like boxing. You go up in weight classes.
Okay.
Figuring out that confidence, figuring out what works for,
right.
Within your niche and what you're doing,
Right.
It's not going to be, you're going to go out there swinging like Mike Tyson.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everything is practice, and everything is just compounding on top of each other, and you're building momentum the entire time. The entire business building process is just building momentum and confidence in everything. The other part of a selfishly based business that I really love is just challenging yourself. Everything that I do in my business is about growth in some way. It's about how can I play bigger? I mean, that's literally my tagline for my the first thing people see on my website is let's play bigger together. Match your brand's photos to where you want to go, to where your business is going, not just where it's been. So it's really cool because that was me telling myself to play bigger. That was not, hey, I'm playing bigger, you guys have to play bigger too. It was, wow, my business isn't where I see my business at big heights. My business is not there yet. How can I get myself there?
What can you do to, take the next step?
Yeah, so it's about challenging your own self and pushing your own self and just setting those crazy inspiring goals. And that's a very selfish thing. It's not like it's like a rising tide lifts all boats, that quote. It's kind of like you're bringing yourself up and you're going to bring everybody else up with you. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's the way I look at a very selfish-based business. It's selflessly selfish. It always ends up, because I've noticed that when I have followed those two rules, I don't really believe in rules for anything, especially business, but when I followed those two things, my clients, one, I found much more heart-based clients who really value me and the work I'm providing them, and I value them a lot. I value everybody I work with, but you just connect better with them.
It's a more preferred clientele.
Right.
And kind of going back off earlier, you said you worked with a variance of clients, but I feel like as you're progressing through the stages of your business, you find more of, this is my person.
Right.
These are the kind of people I want to serve and really provide value to, and they see that it's reciprocal in that regard.
Yeah, and just like the whole playing bigger part, like they're willing to bounce back ideas with you, and it's just like one after the other, and before you know it, like this project is like, whoa, I would have never thought of this on my own, and like it's just such an expansive experience that you want.
And that's the most dynamic kind of partnerships, if you will.
Yeah.
Client-based relationships.
Right.
It's when you have that kind of true collaboration. It's not just you're being like an advisor or director in the process.
Right.
You're consulting, collaborating actively together.
Yeah. You're kind of facilitating and then watching their brand come to life even more than it already was. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
No, that's really interesting. Definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Sorry. There was another point I had about when I talk about playing bigger, it brings on clients who value me more, but it also makes me a lot less afraid to do more. Like I feel more secure playing bigger. So one thing that I've noticed in myself is really cool. I've thought of like, okay, I'm gonna be the biggest photographer in this like local area. And that to me is like stressful. I don't know why. That's just like I unobtainable for some reason. It's just some weird.
Do you feel like it could be good stress though? Could it be channeled to constructive development for you as a professional?
Could be, yes, and I think that's definitely part of it. So this is gonna take an unexpected turn. So when I was like battling with that like, well, what do I do if I can't do that? How am I going to get anywhere else? Something inside of me that was like, think bigger. And I just automatically went to this space where like I was seeing myself photographing celebrities, and not just celebrities for their status, but specific celebrities who share the same expansive mindset that I do.
Yeah.
Celebrities who are like very yes-minded, like universal people who just say you can do anything because you literally can. I mean, we're doing that right now. Like, I don't know, you're creating this life that you love. So, once I jumped that glass ceiling,
it's like almost like a Truman Show moment where you're breaking out.
Yeah, right, exactly. All of those fears dissipated, and all of a sudden, like, it was like, wow, that is what I want to be doing. That feels right, and also like, I'm not afraid. Like, I'm not afraid to go after that. Like, I'm more comfortable with the idea of going after like a celebrity clientele rather than trying to form myself to the molds of like this area, which is really interesting to me.
Well, it's interesting that you say that too. It's just because you're thinking almost from like a 10x approach where I'm going to work with celebrities, and even if I don't,
right,
short term, long term, whatever it may be from a horizontal standpoint,
right,
I want to do really quality work, and I want to work with quality clients at the end of the day.
Exactly, because if I'm in that mindset of I'm going to be working with celebrities, I'm going to make my entire brand, every single piece of marketing, every single touch point that I have with the client, everything is going to reflect that. So naturally, I'm going to raise myself up. It's just like that quote, like, reach for the stars. If you don't, you'll land on the moon, or something like that.
Yeah, I believe that. It's cliche as it sounds. It's true.
Yeah, well, there's so much power in cliches that people,
absolutely,
like, dismiss. And that's a whole nother topic, though. But
yeah.
Yeah. So cool.
No, that's really interesting. And I feel like, too, if you could get in that mindset, just personally, professionally, it weans out like those clients where they might not pay as much, or they may not be as collaborative.
Right.
It's not necessarily they're bad clients. There's not client fits for you, especially with where you want to go on the level of service that you're delivering.
Yeah, and that goes to the whole abundance mindset thing. As entrepreneurs, I think we all take on a great deal of responsibility with that. Like a desire to have that responsibility of I'm going to open my mind and I am going to play bigger. But if you are in a lack mindset, there's no way that you will ever succeed, which is what I saw with my business the first time around. It was just, I'm not enough. I'm not making enough. I became very greedy. I just didn't feel like I wanted to do the bare minimum and get paid like so much for it. And it just doesn't, it
wasn't fulfilling for you. Yeah,
exactly. So over the past, I'd say 3 years, I've really grown into working through my mindset, and I just feel like I'm constantly leveling up with it. So as I grow into and maintain that abundance mindset, it makes it easier to say no to people with lackful mindsets, and you don't feel bad about it because there's somebody who's going to be able to serve them better at that space.
Absolutely, and it doesn't make them necessarily bad people or bad clients. They're just not fits for you, and vice versa. I'm a big believer in that. I always have a sit-down consultation before any contract's drawn up to see it's going to be a fit for both parties.
And it's so important. When we talk about authenticity and just keeping it real in business, I mean, it's just like, it's like dating, you know?
It really is, though.
Yeah, it like, you save so much heartache if you are just like, hey, after the first date, like, hey, I don't think that this is going to go anywhere. We should just, like, be friends, or we should just, like, see other people, rather than being like, oh, I have to commit to this relationship because it's going to give me money or something like that, and then you're in it, and then it becomes so dramatic and so stressful and so, like, obligatory.
No.
Like, nothing in your life or business should ever feel like an obligation. And, like, there are things like taxes and stuff.
Of course. I mean,
like, for the majority.
Death and taxes are certain. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. But no, just keeping it real and having the confidence in yourself to deny people you are serving them. You're serving yourself and you are serving them.
It's really hard to break up with a client.
It is, because there's that fear of like, well, where's my next paycheck going to come from then? Like, I need them because of the money.
Yeah.
And that goes into the competitive mindset, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about it, you're giving an opportunity for another entrepreneur to take a step up in their business, and you're also opening the doors for more clients who respect
opportunities for you.
Yeah. So it's never like there's always something I say that a sacrifice is never a sacrifice.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I used to think otherwise, but I'm a firm believer in that now.
Yeah, and words won't teach you that. Like, you have to experience that for yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
In order to really agree with that,
yeah.
I think. But if you aren't in that mindset, you're in the competitive mindset, and it's like, I have to get all this stuff, otherwise it's going to run out. And that's not the case at all. Because I think something that we have had to really train ourselves into believing as entrepreneurs is that finding clients is as easy as getting air. You know, like, imagine if we all went around worrying if you were going to
Can I get the air?
You're going to take my air. Don't come
if I don't sign this client or sign this air within an hour, I'm going to die.
Exactly. And like running around worrying like, who's going to take my air from me? Oh my gosh. And then that's just going to make you hyperventilate, and that's going to shut you down, and you're going to, I don't know, die. Everybody's just going to die.
And when you're business for yourself, there's so many opportunities, but I feel like all entrepreneurs experience it. I feel like starting off, it's like you almost get a little imposter syndrome. It's like, can I do this? And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing?
Right.
And as you grow into it, either you sink or swim. But through my journey, likewise with you, it's kind of, you don't have to necessarily be the best in what you do. You got to be really good within your niche, within your market, and you don't need the whole market. You might need a fraction percent to be doing very well financially. And if you're putting out great work, providing value, the money comes.
It does. It does. And I can tell you, this is my totally like spiritual and universal part coming out. But
let's go.
The more inner work that I have done to just work myself into that abundant mindset, the less work I have had to do to get business. Like, people just show up out of nowhere, and I'm like, my website is barely advertised on Google, and how did you find me? Like, I had some guy find me on Yelp, on a super outdated Yelp page that just didn't show up at all, and like, it was like family portraits from when I very first started. And he was like, hey, I need headshots, and I was like, what the, how? Like,
yeah, we'll make it work.
Out. Yeah, and it turned out great, and he was a really, really great guy. So like that, and just being at the right place at the right time, like, people are like, I saw your photos, and I love this. Okay, so one really cool story that I absolutely love, going off this, like, you don't have to work hard to have a lot of work. You just have to play and have fun. I went to this lady's event up in York. She is a transformational author coach, and she runs her own publishing
Interesting.
company. She holds an event at Heritage Hills every year, and people literally from all over the world, like Germany, come. And I don't know why I honed in on Germany.
In Little York, Pennsylvania, for reference to anyone out there.
It just seems like, I know growing up here, I would never have expected that stuff like that happens there.
People are just coming internationally.
Right. So I get to this event. I don't know what I'm doing there. I don't know what made me, like, check it out, because I was like, I'm not an author yet. I will be in the future. But
that'd be exciting.
Yeah, it'll be good stuff. But I was waiting in line to enter, and I just saw this lady's photos, and they were like regular studio shots, and I was like, I just don't feel like, I don't know this lady, but I don't feel like these match her at all.
Her personality, her brand.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And I just said, I was just right then and there, I was like, I'm going to be taking her, like, one day I'm going to see my photos up on these event things. And here I am, many months later, almost a year later, I guess it's like 10 months to the date, I just had a session with her at Windridge for her branding.
Oh,
so
okay.
Like that was really cool. And I did nothing to like set that up. It was literally like she saw some photos that I was posting on Facebook of like my garden and of insects.
What?
And she was like, I love these so much. Like, please take my photos. And now like, it was just such an amazing, such an amazing session. And she was like, this is by far the best I've ever felt leaving a photo shoot and like seeing the results of a photo shoot. So
now you said she saw your like photos on Facebook. You guys like connected after this event, I take it then?
Yeah. So if you want the longer story, I went to her event, really transformed me, like mentally, physically. Like I went in with like knee pains that were not going away. When I left on the third day, they just magically dissipated. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. So she was selling tickets to go to her friend's event out in California in LA for February there. And she's like, if you buy them here, it's $200. And I was like, I just feel like everything in my body says yes. Again, I don't know what I'm going to be doing here. I don't think this is really going to serve me, but like, I'll go. And
you got a good feeling about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to roll with that.
Right, exactly. And I had a weird situation there that I just wasn't feeling good about myself, and I'm just gonna be real here. I like had to leave the building and like have basically a breakdown. Like I was like trying to keep myself from having a breakdown, and then all of a sudden like Christine came out of nowhere and just started like talking to me because she was going to invite me to dinner with everybody that we had known there. And then I just like started sobbing to her and we connected really well. It was so funny. But out of that, like we became pretty close. And and here we are like in...
It's crazy how that works out.
Oh my God. All the time. Like just like I was saying, I want to work with yes people. Like the universe is a yes universe. When you tune into your heart and live authentically in that way and just feel what it feels like for your heart to expand and say like, yes, go do this, even though you have no reason why, it pays off.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to fucking do things like this podcast.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And it's really wild. I think the more I work with people, I think one of the most important skills I've learned is just nurturing relationships and developing them, but in a very organic, natural fashion. I mean, there's been times where I've networked and connected with people where you're not necessarily just hitting it off right there. Right. If you go back to the dating example, you're just not going to get married to somebody the first time.
Right.
You take them on a date.
It's a night in Vegas. I don't know.
Yes, which that does happen.
Yeah.
But
how do they end?
Yeah,
I'm sure there are some success stories in there.
Yeah. Few and far between.
Yeah.
But naturally, it's just you build a relationship, you build a rapport. You might not necessarily deep dive into a huge project. It might scale into that eventually after you work with one another a little bit, after you further connect, maybe at another event. And I've learned that's probably the most valuable thing in my practice, honestly.
Yeah.
It's not even just like the technical skills, but the soft skills.
Oh, 100%.
And when you're just honest about that, it pays dividends.
Absolutely, yeah. So walk me through an example of like what that has looked like for you.
Oh, I'll give you a great example. So one particular client, it's in a long-term relationship. I met them formally December of last year. We did a test campaign March. So we're like, 3+ months later already. And then we didn't enter a long-term contract situation for like another month.
Oh, cool.
Just because of the work I did and being patient.
Right.
And over time, just kind of networking and connecting with him when I saw him rather than trying to just sell him the first time I saw him.
Right.
I knew I wanted to work with him in the capacity I am now.
Right.
But I know it's just like you can't force a relationship like that.
Absolutely.
And it's probably the best client relationship I have. So
yeah. Good.
Awesome in that regard.
That's wonderful. Yeah. It's definitely good when that stuff can pay off.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just thinking, this tea's really good, and these whiskey sours are even better, quite frankly.
Good. Mine's just juice at this point, just sour juice.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm totally fine with
Yeah, that just sounded good.
I'm not a whiskey person, so the fact that I enjoyed this in the first place was very surprising to me. But you make a good whiskey sour.
Oh, well, thank you. You heard it here first.
Another plug.
Yes.
He's actually gonna open up his own bar here soon.
Yes, eventually. So stay tuned. There might be some discounts. Future installments, but I'm kind of going back onto the whole point of this kind of leveling up. Okay. I'm kind of curious. I know to me, when you're doing things that are outside the norm, saying yes, it's sometimes outside your wheelhouse, I feel like.
Yeah.
Where there's a little discomfort. And I think that's a healthy thing. What about you?
Absolutely. I know there's a lot of resistance there in me when I come across those situations. So a lot of it is just building out my mindset to convince myself that I can do it. But it's always one of those things that it's so much easier done than said. Like, and I wish I could like claim that as my own, but that's something that Kyle Cease teaches. Is like, it's just easier done than said. And we go into things and we just make it such a big deal in our minds. But when we're in the actual act of doing it, it's like, oh, this is nothing. This is nothing like what I thought it was going to be. And then we feel silly and stupid, but like at the end of the day, pretty much everything in business is that way. Like,
absolutely.
I sent an email out asking and pitching to somebody and it didn't work out. Okay, well, it was just practice. Like,
let's do another one.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm alive. So
and it goes back to that abundance mindset. It's funny how that all kind of interconnects from a value standpoint.
Absolutely.
Speaking of values, I know you give a lot of value with your work. I've seen it. She's great, by the way. I'm going to plug her.
Thanks.
So check out lmudrockphoto.com for all your branding photography needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, not as like an ego thing, but I'm very high on quality.
Yeah, honestly, Lauren's my favorite photographer to work with from this a branding portrait point of view. So, cosign. Outside, I know we've been tiptoeing around it, but outside providing value, what do you value as a business owner?
So a lot of the things that I talked about right now, I really value playing it bigger. I really value being authentic. I really value people because people connect to people. People don't connect to business. People connect, even if I'm talking about photos, people connect to the emotional part of photos. So it's all of that. So let's see. Hold on. Sorry. Let me think about where I'm going with this.
Are you good?
So we have authenticity, play. Okay, that's where I want to go. So play itself. I love to have fun, and I have closed myself off from that for a very long time in life. I always felt like I had to be the serious one because I felt like a lot of the people around me would just like shut me down when I was like being goofy.
You're being too goofy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get serious, Lauren.
It was just kind of like I guess I was the embarrassing kind of goofy, and I don't blame anybody for like being annoyed with me, but but it's like it's made me really like clam up as a person. So I've had to like open that up. So now one of my main foundational pieces that I value in life is just having fun. Like, I don't make anything a big deal. I never, like, I've worked through so much that, like, I just really don't care. If things are not going right, I don't get upset about it because I just trust the universe so much that, like, okay, this is going to benefit me in some way. Like, it's not a big deal. So, like, automatically when you take on that mindset, everything becomes more playful and you're just, like, giggling all the time. And I mean, people will see me all the time just smiling and to myself and for no reason. So a lot of what I do reflects that. Like, I want to keep things light, want to keep things candid, want to keep things like real and fun and playful with everybody.
And you're tying in your personal beliefs and values into your business, into your brand, not even just subconsciously or secondary, but like it's in the forefront. It's
primary. Like I said, selfish. It's very selfish, but that as I stand in my own light, like people are attracted to that and they want that too. Because it's not just the item or the service or the product that they want. They want everything it's going to promise them. And if you yourself are this beaming person, they're going to say, me working with you, I'm going to be that beaming person too. Yeah. So like it levels everybody up automatically. No,
and I think that's extremely important. And honestly, you kind of pre-qualify clients by putting that messaging out there the way that you do. It's just like, okay, maybe she's a little too fun for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe I need a little something more corporate. Okay.
Yep.
No harm, no foul.
And like the cool thing is while it eliminates some people, it'll still attract the right people. So like I'm so willing to tone it down and be more serious if I need to. I'm not gonna be like, oh no.
No. Yeah, you're not gonna
giggles. Then get out of here.
You're too serious.
yeah. Like I'm not gonna be that way. But it shows too the people who are still willing to take a chance, because in branding it's very scary, because when you're starting out in business you really want to attract everybody. You want to be like, I can do all the photography, like I can be a family portrait photographer, I can be a wedding photographer, I can do senior portraits, I can do branding, I can do headshots. Like you want to be able to do all of that, but you lose everybody when you're doing that.
I agree with you, and especially in the creative and marketing field, it's especially in a more smaller local markets, I call them octopuses.
Oh, okay.
Where you have these agencies where they're trying to do branding, digital, video, SEO, copy. What's your specialization?
Right. Like I would trust like a very specific surgeon over my general doctor to be able to do something.
That's a perfect analogy, honestly, quite frankly. It's big, it's huge. And I think that comes with maturity and growth and confidence within one's skill sets and values.
Right. And I should say too, if you are starting out in your business, don't be afraid to be that person. Don't be afraid to try it all out at first.
No, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, you have to figure out what you like, and honestly, you don't figure things out until you're in the middle of doing them. Like you can't just sit here and think about like, okay, am I going to be this kind of photographer? Am I going to like this? Like, you don't know until you are in the middle of that experience. So.
No, that's huge. I've learned more and more. Like, I've done anything from like copy work to website development. I hate website development, but I know some really good people out there if you ever need a reference. I'm big on referrals. It's more than anything. It's just, you got to do what really sparks a fire.
Yeah.
And you can get behind in what you're good at and what you really like, what you're good at.
Absolutely.
And just putting it out there. So I really like the way you frame your business, and I do my best to do the same thing from just a marketing strategist standpoint. Yeah.
I mean, and mine's a little bit too relaxed, I think, sometimes. Like, I don't post on social media. I rarely post ever. But I don't feel the need to, because it's really that perfect timing, again, with the universe. I've noticed that in the past, when I have like tried to put things out consistently, like the energy just isn't there. It's not real. It's not authentic. It's hey, give me business. And I don't see any return for that. However, when I just post sporadically, like even if it's like once a month, especially when I was doing Reiki, like it was like somebody would just come across this specific post that I genuinely felt guided to just put out there just to help people.
You had a more of an authentic call to action. Right. Not to interrupt, but...
Yeah, absolutely. But random people would be like, wow, this is exactly what I need to hear. I want to set up an appointment with you. And it would just like, right off the bat, like one single post that took me like 10 minutes to write up, just spur of the moment, proceed it in like $100 session, which is fantastic. Like that's really
10 minutes.
Great. Boom. Yeah. Whereas like if I was spending like a full day like stressing myself out, because honestly I hate structure and processes, but like if I was like, okay, I need to post this content in this day and I have to have this and blah 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 and all these details, and like trying to figure that out in one day, that's such a waste of time, because I end up throwing it all away anyway.
Yeah, because your content strategy pivots. I mean, your brand's dynamic. It's growing. It's not necessarily what you planned out 2 months ago necessarily going to be 100% relevant now. I mean, it's, I think, important and healthy to pivot at times. You know, it's nice to have those processes and planning in play, but room for adjustment, room for growth.
Yeah, you're constantly evolving. There's nowhere to go but up. And that's another thing, like going back to the abundance mindset, you can't be afraid of ditching something. I mean, like my timeline, I went from basically straight out of trade school, because I left. So if we even take it back further, I started college and was like, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
Left that, went to a trade school for 6 months, then did some video production work, and then went into photography, went into a corporate job, went into Reiki, and then went back to photography. And like, sure, there were times where I was like, wow, I probably look like a fucking idiot to most people out there. Like, I'm really kind of ashamed of like my path. And
you gotta fail. You gotta fail forward.
Exactly. Yes, fail forward. That's a really great way of saying that. I eventually like just owned it, because I noticed that there's no mistakes. There's literally no mistakes in any of this. All of those pieces play together to
you wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah, they created the authentic brand that I am today, and the strong brand that I am today, and like I could not be happier with how it all played out. So
No, it's really important too. I feel like there are times where people get in a rut, and I've been there. You get in a rut, and you're like, oh, I'm going to do this because, the money's good. Mm-hmm. And then you fucking hate it.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what are you going to do? You're going to stay in that job? Are you going to stay in that contract? Or are you going to take a little risk and get a little uncomfortable if it means getting to where you want to go?
Yeah, exactly.
More than anything.
Exactly. And, the thing is, too, I would like to say, you never have to throw away those other things that you were doing. Because
absolutely not, no.
While I didn't like wedding photography by the end of it, now I take on very minimum, but I still take on wedding clients. And I absolutely love it because it's like a breakup of the monotony, even though every session is very different in the branding world. It's still nice to go back to that completely candid nature and just hanging out with people at a reception and dancing with them at a wedding. That's where I come to life. So you still,
it's your funness,
right? Exactly. And you get paid for it, and you find that you still you love those things because you're coming from a different perspective this time around. It's not I have to do this. It's I get to do this because I want to now.
Yeah, I can choose if I want to do 3 weddings a year or 30.
Yeah, exactly. And if I did 30, then I would not have a fun time. I would, yeah.
Shout out to all the newlyweds out there.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is I wouldn't be serving them. I don't think I served my clients nearly as well as I could have, and that breaks my heart to say, and I feel really bad about it.
It's hindsight.
And yeah, and a lot of them will tell you they loved my service, but it's just the way I viewed it, and I still do view it.
It's progression though too.
Right. But I wouldn't be able to serve them. So even pulling back, and I know this is how you run your business now, take on less clients and charge a higher rate so that you can serve them. It feels good, and you are able to show up 120% at that point.
Yeah, you're just giving them more value, quite frankly, and it's working. I went through a period, actually the past 6 months, literally, you go from half a dozen clients on retainer to 2. And my biggest thing was difficult, high cost, high value, or low cost, low value, just based on the quality of relationships between the two.
And neither's right or wrong. It's what feels better to you. Are you the kind of I don't want to say factory, but do you want to turn jobs over quickly, or do you want to really do you come alive in really getting involved in building these relationships and
really get involved with these businesses on an intimate level?
Yes.
More than just a quick turnaround project.
Yeah, because with that, you can put processes and structure into place, but building that connection, you can't put a process around that. You can't put any kind of structure around. It's like showing up to a date with cue cards. Okay, what are we talking about next? You can't do that. You just have to let that form organically, and that's going to result in exponential value that you wouldn't be able to get in turnover rates.
Oh, absolutely not.
Showing up with cue cards and blah blah blah. It's so silly.
It's so funny you say that too, because I've witnessed it. I mean, I've been there to an extent, but I've witnessed it being pitched to by salespeople, and I think the worst was in a Starbucks. It was clearly a sales meeting with a young couple, and this is sales rep. Yeah. And I was just watching his body language, his questions. I'm like, one, this is totally the cue card process that you just mentioned, and 2, he doesn't believe what he's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why he's not believing what he's doing, but clearly his body language and tone, he did not believe in what he was doing.
Yep.
He was not be able to connect with this couple.
And it all comes down to fear. It's just fear of taking that risk of doing what you really want to do. Fear of, are they going to like me? Fear of, how do I mold to what do these people want from me that's going to get this sale? Whereas if you just kind of dismiss all that and are you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to show up and I'm just going to be real. I'm going to be me. And we're just going to talk about this thing because we want to be here.
Yeah, and it goes back to the point where it's interesting. It's I think when you're focusing more on the sale initially, you fuck up more often than not.
Yes.
Rather than, okay, here's my value. How can I want to find out, how can I help you?
Right.
Why are we even talking right now?
Right.
Finding out those questions, starting to build some kind of a rapport.
Yeah, and I think a huge part of it is knowing that you are valuable. Affirmations are a big part of, I think, any kind of personal development. And they can often sabotage you. You know, if you go in with an affirmation of like, I am valuable, I am valuable, I am valuable, you're just trying to convince yourself that you're valuable. Instead, like, you want to affirm, like, I can see my value, and in that you actually start to like pick up on the ways that you're adding value, because value isn't just what you're providing, it's everything around it. It's like, hey, how many touch points are we gonna have? Like, how like when I do weddings, I get to know like their entire crew, and I like get to know them like they're my best friends. And like, so when I show up, I just blend into the day. That's huge and valuable and doesn't cost a thing. Like, it's
absolutely not.
Yeah, but like, that's something before that I wouldn't have thought was valuable. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one who feels that way, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who need to hear that like your value comes down to everything. What clothes are you wearing? Like, are you making your people feel comfortable? Are you bringing them snacks or something? Like, I don't know.
It's little things go so far.
They do.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and like, don't discount any of it.
No. And my biggest thing too, I work with a lot of business owners. So it's communicating with the business owners, but also treating like lower level employees, entry level employees, with respect and dignity, as if they were extension of the business owner, because they are.
Yeah.
So like, I'm going to talk to Joanne very similarly where I would talk to the business owner.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if Joanne, I don't have to at all. I don't even have to acknowledge her. I do. Hey, how are you? Have a good weekend. Nice to see you again.
Exactly.
And then, okay, I'm going to meet with your boss.
Yeah, and that's cool that you say that, because I've always been known to like just make people feel really at home and comfortable I'll just go right into the example. So when I was in the corporate world, I was a Scrum Master, which is basically a project facilitator.
Yeah.
And we had somebody new come onto our team, and he was like straight out of college, basically. And when I left, I think he had been there for like a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe even a couple weeks. But he went out of his way to tell me that I was the only person out of this entire company who he felt like he could ask any question to and not like feel bad about it.
Really? Did you ask him why?
I don't think I had to. I think he just kind of said, you made me feel really comfortable. Like,
interesting. Okay.
Like it's just that energy that like, hey, I'm not like, and I can tell you the exact reason is like, if you ask me a really dumb question right now, I would be like, okay, yeah, sure, let me help you out. It's not that you're dumb. You're not dumb for not knowing it. It's just like you just haven't had that experience yet. So like, you just have to like find that in your realm. Like, I don't know. There's nothing to be judgmental about. So I don't know how we got into that topic. I'm so sorry.
No, it's quite all right. That's what happens on Schiffbauer Over Rocks. We just kind of we ran a monologue a little bit.
But just adding value. That's what we were on. Okay. I'm good now.
Fantastic. I'm doing great myself. I think the biggest thing any brand can convey, it's one, of course, is providing that value authentically as possible to their core values and who they are, and identifying with a base, whatever it be, followers or some kind of clientele that it intersects and it makes sense. Like, you just can't be everything to everybody.
Right.
Inevitably.
You don't have to be.
No, you don't, and that's a big misconception.
Yeah. So, like, okay, so when I think about it, going back to the whole breathing thing, it's like, say trees needed oxygen instead of CO2. Then we would definitely have a problem. Like, but it becomes a symbiotic relationship naturally, whereas like we're breathing in the oxygen that they provide, and they're taking in the CO2 that we exhale. So that's the way I feel like you don't have to be everything, because we all play our specific roles that really, like, when you look at the bigger picture, help make a much stronger economy, and just stronger businesses and stronger like life in general for everybody.
No, I'm a big giver in that regard. This is putting out that value, and you'll get value in return. It doesn't necessarily have to be immediately. It comes back one way or another, via opportunity or just referrals. It's awesome. But we've been talking a lot about branding. I just want to kind of bring it home.
Sure.
So, what's the Lauren Mudrock brand now, and what's the Lauren Mudrock brand in the future?
Ooh, that's a really fantastic question. So, the Lauren Mudrock brand now, when you're talking about that Are you talking like just general logos and stuff? Like what
values in terms of who you're working with?
Cool.
And then what you're shooting for.
Okay. So I kind of touched on that before. Right now, it's all around small business owners and like online presence, people with online presence and small businesses there. And just really creative entrepreneurs who want to think outside the box, who want to just make their brands more fun. It's around that stuff. Where it's going, like I said, I see myself shooting with celebrities and being in that playing field. And I know where I'm going to be going is along this lines, combining the whole mental aspect of things and mindset parts with photography. I've always had a dream, and actually this was at that lady Christine's event that it really became solidified, that I want to be hosting like retreats and workshops for people to come to figure out like what it is that lights them up, or how to find the confidence to bring their dreams to life. Like, you don't have to know what it is yet, you can just come to get inspired. And yeah, just build like an entire experience around that. So it will definitely be branching out to much more than just photography. It's going to be everything.
It's bigger than photography.
Yeah, it is. It is.
That's important.
It is, because I, like, when I go in, and I'm, like, redoing my branding right now, as I'm creating content for it, it's not all sessions. It's going to be, hey, let me help you live your brand more authentically. And it's around that, so.
And the best brands in the world, in my opinion, Apple. Cliche, but they're more than just a computer company.
Yeah.
You know, they make innovative products and provide innovative customer service and solutions. By the way, they also sell computers. That's like the secondary aspect of their business.
Yeah. I mean, they talk about that in the why.
Start with why, Simon Sinek.
Yep, exactly. It's why we do what we do, how we do it, and oh yeah, by the way, we do that with computers. So, yeah.
Branding, everybody. Any final thoughts?
It's all practice. You know, okay, so a really good thing to touch on is just the amount of pressure that we put on ourselves to get it right, to succeed. It's all just practice. You literally cannot mess it up. You will never miss the opportunity that is meant to be yours, and everything else until then is just practice. It's just gathering data. It's just whatever. So, yeah, make your brand about learning. Make your brand about curiosity. Whatever you are curious about in the moment, like, incorporate that. Just be real about all of that.
And that can be a tide, regardless if you're a business owner or not. It's this get better every day. And on that note, it's been a fucking fabulous first episode of Schiffbauer Over Rocks. Thank you, everybody.